We'll start with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can we take a roll call?
All board members are present except for Cindy Hills.
Do we have a quorum?
We have a quorum.
Thank you.
And I think there comes Cindy right now on the door.
Cindy's present.
All right,
They demoted her and
yeah.
just for now.
Good, I get to do that. Comments from visitors, and I'll do that, so. Comments from visitors must be in relation to Aitkin Public Schools and or to agenda items. We recommend that you sign up at the comment table if you wish to speak. You will be called up in order as listed on the sign-up sheet. When you come forward to comment, please be seated at the comment table facing the board members. State your name prior to your comment. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes. The board will not engage in any discussion or debate during this comment session. The board will take the information, find answers as appropriate. As part of the board protocol, it is unacceptable for any speaker to slander or engage in character assassination at a public board meeting. Thank you. Is there anybody on the list? Is there any visitors that
I
are
didn't see anybody
speaking?
come and sign up.
Excuse me. Cindy, you're up.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Holly, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jen, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes. Oath of office?
Oath of office.
So everybody should have not everybody, Brian, Cindy and Don should have in front of them. We need to sign that you've read the oath.
Do we need to do anything else official?
I think you need to read the oath,
Oh, okay.
because you didn't when you came in.
Do we need to stand and raise our right hand? And
However you want to.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Yep. All right.
Yeah.
Do you want to, here,
Do you want to join them up there?
do I want to join them up there here? I thought you wanted the oath to read.
No.
But Brian, Cindy and Don have to do
Yeah,
the
this
oath.
is a,
Here, I thought he was gonna read it. so
No.
You have to take it.
I'll read it, we can all raise our right hands.
yeah.
Okay. I hereby accept the office of school board member of Independent School District Number 1 for a term beginning the first Monday in January 2025 and expiring the first Monday in January 2029. So if you agree with that oath, say I do.
I
I
do.
do.
All right.
All right.
Do we have to do
You have
this?
to do this. I swear.
Okay. So should we all read that together?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay, ready, go.
I swear or
that I will
affirm
support
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office of school board member of Independent School District Number 1 to the best of my judgment and ability.
Okay.
Amen.
Good job.
Congratulations.
congrats.
All right.
Okay, next is the election of officers for 2025. First, we'll do call for nominations for chair.
I nominate Cindy Hills to be our chair for the next year.
I will second that nomination.
Motion by Don, second by Holly. And then I think we continue, right? If there's
We should
any
do-
other,
Yeah, we got a call for nominations 3 times.
okay. Any other nominations? I'll give you plenty of time if there's any other nominations. Is there a motion to close the nominations?
I'll make the motion to close the nominations.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And then, so, I've been nominated as the chair, so then we need to do a motion to, a motion and a second, and then the final approval
Yep.
on that. So, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Holly,
Second.
second by Don. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried with all members voting yes. Is there a nomination for a vice chair?
I nominate Roland Hill to be our vice chair.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Is there a motion to close the nominations and enter a unanimous decision for Roland Hill as vice chair?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried with all members voting yes.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a nomination for the clerk?
I'll nominate Jen.
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any other nominations for clerk? Any other nominations for clerk? Is there a motion to close the nominations and cast a unanimous ballot for Jen Burgos as the clerk?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes. Okay, is there a call for nominations for the treasurer?
I'll make a motion for Holly.
Motion by Roland for Holly, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Maybe I didn't need to do a second. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Is there a motion to close the nominations for treasurer and cast unanimous ballot for Holly?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Roland, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Jen?
Nobody wants that position, Holly. I know, you're
All
She
those in-
seems to love it, so.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes. I think we got through that.
Yep.
Did we?
Yep, we got
Okay.
that. You
And
know,
we don't have to play musical
don't
chairs
play the
either.
musical chairs, it should be
Does
set.
anyone wish to change their seating? Better view? Closer to your friends? I don't know. Everyone okay with their seating placement? You good?
I'm good.
Okay.
I stay your buffer.
All right.
You're talking.
All right, next we will establish the meeting dates and times and place for 2025. We historically have had the third Monday of each month, except for January and February, both moved ahead a week due to the holidays. And then later on in the agenda, we'll kind of determine if we still want to have one meeting in Malmo and one in Palisade like we have done in the past. So is there a motion to establish the meeting dates, times, and place for 2025?
I move that we keep our meeting dates and times the same.
So the third Monday of each month at
At
6:30 with January and February moved a week ahead during the holiday.
Correct.
And does your motion include any commentary regarding Malmo or Palisade?
Do you want me to loop it in there so we can do them together?
Sure.
Then my motion will also include that we go to Melmo, but not go to Palisade, because Palisade does not have the ability to live stream.
Okay.
I'm also open to an amendment.
Okay. Is there a second for discussion at least?
Okay, here it says June, I think we've gone to Melmo in May.
I think we talked
Yeah.
about changing it
June
this
to
year
June.
because of, we had changed it in June this past year. Before that, we went in the spring.
Okay,
Because we don't have any student council, we don't miss out on the presentations.
that's right, okay,
In Malmo, there's been some attendees.
yep.
How much,
Is there a second, first of all,
Oh,
and then
I'm
we'll get to
sorry.
Yes, I'll
discussion?
second.
Second by Holly. Okay, continue with discussion, Roland.
is how much, internet speed you need for that live stream?
It's it's recommended to have 5 megabits of upload. So it has to have a stable connection.
Yeah, and I suppose no hotspot would work there.
No.
As I was making my motion, I was thinking, oh, but this last time we went out to Palisade, it was recorded and then just loaded up on YouTube. So,
Have we ever had anyone actually come to the Palisade meeting?
When we first started meeting there, we did the first several
I
years.
feel like my first year here, we had a pretty, I mean, there was people there, but I don't know. Then we had the COVID years and then the last. I've just
Probably
been back
not
out the
anyone
last two,
since
yeah.
COVID, yeah.
I think it should be based more on attendance than the live streaming.
And both are recorded, neither one of them are live streamed.
Oh,
Oh,
But we do have people that show up in Melmo.
uh,
right.
Any more discussion?
I would rather keep Palisade too.
So you'd like to make an amendment?
Yeah, to keep Palisade.
Are you willing to amend your motion?
yep, I'm willing to amend my
And
motion.
you're
And my
willing to
second.
amend the second? Okay. So the motion on the table is to establish the meeting dates as the third Monday of each month, except for January and February. Both of those are moved a week ahead due to the holidays. The time being 6:30. The place, the Aiken High School Media Center, except for June in Malmo and October in Palisade. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes. Okay, other business, is there a motion to authorize updates to and use of the 2025 computerized signature files? Authorize use of the 2024 signatures until updates are complete.
Can we do all of 5D through 8? Do we have to do them separately, I guess is what I'm asking?
I
Or can we
think-
do all of 5D 1 through 5D 8 together?
I think for the bank, we have to do them
I
separate.
think we have to do those, separately. So I would recommend that we do them all separately.
Okay.
Is that a
I will make a
motion?
motion for the 5D 1.
Okay,
I'll second.
there's a motion and a second to authorize the updates, for the computerized signature files, to use the 2024 signatures until the updates are complete, and then the 2025 computerized signature files. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes. Next, authorize Heather Hip and Karen Carlson to stop payments on checks for all district accounts.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brian, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes. Okay, designate school attorneys without retainer, Ryan and Brucker, Kennedy and Graven, and Pemberton Law. They've all represented ISD 1 this past year. They each sort of do different types of law. And so doesn't mean that we can't go with someone else, but it means that when we need to act, those are the first line of defense that we can call.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Holly, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes. Okay, name the Aiken Independent Age the official school district newspaper.
I'll move that we name the Aiken Independent Age the official school district newspaper.
There's a motion on the table, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Holly, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes. Designate the district director of the budget, purchasing agent, and authority to make electronic fund transfers. Typically, consideration is given to designating the business manager as the director of the district budget, the purchasing agent, and the authority to make those electric fund transfers. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Don to designate the district director, or the business manager as the district director. Is that what your motion is? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Roland. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes. All right, authorize the superintendent to sign contracts and other documents.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Holly. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Dawn. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes. Appoint the business manager Heather Hip to sign on all bank accounts.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Holly. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Cassie. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes.
Okay. These I think we can do, if there's a discussion on any of them, this you can approve in one.
The next is to set the salaries for the board members. I don't believe that there's an increase in any of these. Is that correct?
This is what
They're
it
all
has been, so
established.
if you wanna,
Okay.
if there's any changes, it would have to be discussed here.
Chair at $275 a month, vice chair $250 a month, clerk $250, treasurer $265, and then the 3 directors are $250 a month. Negotiators $15 per hour in actual meetings. Out of district $12 per hour up to $75 a day. Dental insurance $30 per month. Health and life insurance are available at the board member's expense.
I'll make a motion
And
to
it-
accept.
And is your motion to keep everything as is?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Don. Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes.
We do the same with the depositories.
Okay, so designate the depositories for the school funds. The following banks are currently named depositories: General Account, Security State Bank, and MSDLAF. Payroll Account, Security State Bank. Petty Cash Account, Flex Account. Food Service, Community Ed are all Security State Bank. Investments are with Bremer Bank, Security State Bank, Members Cooperative Credit Union, MSDLAF, US Bank Minneapolis, PMA Financial Network, and Zion's Bank. Is there a motion to designate these depositories for school funds?
So moved.
Motion by Don. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jen. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes.
Alright.
Okay, student council,
Don't believe we have anybody from student council here today, Lex.
okay? Science curriculum review and update.
Here, we got some people here for that. So as we've talked about over the past couple of years, the different departments have been working on curriculum and updating to standards and so on. Why don't you come on up? And science, I believe the curriculum was last year, when we were in their second year working through the new curriculum. And I asked that they come forward and share a little bit of an update to the board for how things are going and what they've got, so go ahead.
In case you don't know who I am, I'm Kenna Grader. I teach 10th grade biology here at the high school.
I'm Amanda Steffens. I teach 9th grade earth science at the high school.
So we'll just go over a little bit of like the history of this process, and some of you were involved in this and others of you, maybe this is new information. So we started this process in 2022, the spring really. In 2019 is when the current standards were being adopted, and so, or were in their final stages, so we needed a curriculum to match that from the previous 2009 standards. So in the spring, we began meetings with admin in both buildings, elementary and high school, and then we had K-12 reps for each grade level, and we met in February, March, April, and then in May to discuss what curriculum options were available, really what was out there, what we needed different, and what would match the language of the new standards. So part of those meetings, discussions, what we looked at was our past MCA data trends. It's not news to you guys, is our science scores were consistently lower than state average, and they were lower than our reading and our math scores at grade level here at the school, or at Aiken Public Schools as well. And really we were finding from the high school perspective that there was a gap in elementary instruction, that there wasn't as much time dedicated as what people maybe thought that there was. I think a lot of people at the time thought Brenda Besh was covering a lot of the grade level standards and was doing some of that science instruction, but her job really is more STEM-based content. And so some of the core standards at those levels weren't necessarily being given as much time, and for no one's fault or for any real reason, as maybe just a general oversight. So we were really looking to close some of those gaps to help improve our scores. In 2019, the science standards were in their final draft form. They were written off of the 2013 NGSS science standards, so the national science standards. We still follow Minnesota, but they're rooted in those across the states. In 24, so this year through 25 is when those 2019 standards are fully implemented. So we had a 5-year timeline more or less of how to get those in order and in place in our curriculum. They'll be reviewed again in theory in 2029 and are kind of on a 10-year cycle. This spring will be the first time that our students are tested on the new science standards. So the 2025 test is based on the 2019 versus the 2009 standards as previously tested. We did make a few changes at the high school. So physical science moved from the 9th grade level down to the 8th grade level. Earth science moved from 8th grade to 9th grade, and it's better, or we did that move to better like match the testing content and to match the scope and sequence. What we found too in that the language of the 2019 standards, the content didn't change much, but the approach and the language was what was altered. So where before it was more like recipe labs, much more of the language now is phenomenon driven verbiage and student-centered hands-on exploration. So we needed some curriculum that could match that versus what we previously had. So our goals for the curriculum that we were developing and that we were choosing was to improve our scores and to close some of the elementary gaps. So we were really looking for a K-12 program, not just a 5-12 program, which is where I think a lot of the focus had been previously. When we were looking at the implementation in the elementary school, it was a lot of like cross-content approach. So could our students at those levels maybe work on their reading skills while reading science content? Could they work on their math skills while building their ability to read a graph or to formulate correct variables on a hypothesis that's being shown in like an X and Y axis, those types of things, so that we could not take away from other areas, but to build on them and to support the science along the way. And some of the discussion we had at those initial meetings was to identify maybe 3 or 4 like power standards at each grade level that we could try to begin focusing on. So that was a lot of those initial meetings and the discussion of what we were looking for in a curriculum. So then we sampled a whole ton of things. We met with people that were kind of here to sell us their curriculum and show us what they had. And what we landed on in the long run was Inspire, which was previously McGraw-Hill, to use K-8, and then Inspire and Savas, which was Pearson. Savas was Pearson at 912. So when we had those curriculums in mind, then we started to have the community stakeholder meetings where we brought those to members of our board, members of the community who volunteered to look at that curriculum, and then our representatives K-12 and us in the high school, and just really look at what was being presented. Again, with the new standards, the content isn't really different. It's just the approach to how we teach it. So there was good feedback from there, a lot of questions as to why maybe our scores were where they were compared to the other levels, and we have lots of reasons for that. The way that they're tested was on the 2019 standards, or the 2009 standards, excuse me, but we were teaching ahead of the game, the 2019. We figured we should be working towards the future versus staying in the past. that time dedicated at the elementary school, some of those switches we made at our grade levels here. And so just implementing some of that work to try to get those scores where we wanted them to be. And so that was good discussion to have. Everyone was okay with the Inspire and the Savas, and so we officially purchased materials in the fall of 23 and began to kind of soft launch them in our classrooms. And so what we've seen with that, and then more dedicated focus this year especially, is our scores have improved. And so over the last 2 years, we've seen across grade levels. So they take a test in 5th grade, they take a test in 8th grade, they take a test in 10th grade. The 5th grade and the 8th grade tests cover multiple years, and then the 10th grade is my content specific. And those scores have improved in all test areas to the point where now we are minimally meeting state average. We're a little bit above that in some and a little bit more above that in others. So those are good trends to see, right? And we're hoping that the tests that they take this spring will continue to have that improvement. It might be a little bit of an adjustment with the first test being like a totally brand new test. It's never been administered before, not just to our students, but to students across the state. So we
Kind of don't know necessarily what to expect yet.
we
with
could
it,
expect
so.
that there's a dip. Our students could totally knock it out of the park, just depends. But we feel confident that the content we've been focusing on is preparing them for that test as much as we can. With the content that or the curriculum that we did choose between the Inspire and the Savas, what it provides is consistency K-12. And so when they're going from kindergarten to 1st grade to 2nd grade, all the way through, the language is the same, the formatting's the same, the content changes, but is presented in the same way. So hopefully there's less of a learning curve as those students are moving from one grade level to the next, and they're kind of comfortable with the format of things, which just helps better ease into 1 year's new content where they're not having to relearn totally from scratch. Both of the Inspire and Savas curriculums have physical classroom sets of books, so we didn't purchase 100 books. We purchased one set for the classroom so that we have those in our spaces, but everything came with digital resources. They mesh seamlessly with Canvas, and so it supports what we're already doing. And then both Savas and Inspire had supplemental resources that just help us do what we do better, right? So reading articles, with the Savas, for me, it was tied to HHMI, which is a Howard Hughes Medical Institute that is used often in biology. It was actually appearing on the MCA test in the last few years too. So those are just nice things to have already in the curriculum that we don't have to search for otherwise. So, do you have anything to add?
Pretty much covered.
That was it.
And so I think, isn't it true that that state average is generally right around that 50th percentile? And so I think it's sort of a misnomer that the community assumes that we should be scoring 93%, 84%, right? 75%. And that's not the case, right?
Correct.
And so that's the difficult thing, because I think that while we're making progress and we feel like we're doing very well, you guys are doing very well, the students are doing very well. People are confusing what a good test score is, right? Would you agree with that?
Yep,
Are there
absolutely.
any other comments that you have to help us when we're talking about that with the public?
Well, and it's unlike any of the other tests, right? Like, so for reading and for math, it's like every year, right? It's that content for that year. Whereas science is completely different with the 5th grade test and then with the 8th grade test. So like the 8th grade test, it's everything that they've learned from 5th grade on. And then, so they have to remember things from 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, right? So it's a hard test with multiple contents. So it'll be interesting to see now with the new test, if it's changing more of the verbiage or what they're going to kind of stick with. So that's kind of what's exciting for us with our new curriculum, because then hopefully they'll be able to retain as they're working through it. So
And those tests were often like a moving target. From 1 year, it might focus more on weather and erosion, and the next year it's something totally different. So as a teaching perspective, like, it's really hard for us outside of just teaching our standards, right? And at the core of what we're doing, the test is how well we're teaching our standards, we're teaching those, right? It's just what standards they're focused on. Again, what year they have to remember from, if it's the 5th grade year, the 7th grade year. In 10th grade, mine's a little bit more specific because it is just what they learn from the fall to the spring in my biology content. And so those scores have been a little bit more consistent and a little bit higher than the 5th and the 8th grade, just because it's easier to remember 1 year's worth of content versus many years worth of content. And you're exactly right. Like those scores right now, like proficiency statewide is somewhere around like a 40. And yes, people see that and they're like, 40, what is happening? So
Right.
yeah, just some of that knowledge of what those scores actually mean and what they entail.
Right. Do other standardized tests that colleges or other, like the ACT, do they use some of the same content that's found in the Minnesota standards and curriculum? Or do colleges have set curriculum? Like how does it work when our students are taking our tests but then transitioning to the real world, so to speak?
Yeah. So I don't have a ton of knowledge of what those tests might look like, but I do know a lot of like what the ACT tests are is more science literacy skills. And that's a real focus of what the 2019 standards are, is just science literacy. Can we speak knowledgeably about science concepts? Can we analyze data? Can we think critically? Those are kind of those overarching.
So it's not memorization and regurgitating back, it's how do you
not
apply
at all.
it,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is for sure the focus of, they've always been the focus, but much more so right now. They call them cross-cutting concepts. And so can you transfer skill sets from one content area to the next? Not necessarily can you memorize this specific set of knowledge, but have you built the critical thinking to be able to analyze?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot of work to put into just a few minutes of a presentation, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you guys have other questions at all?
I thought, did I hear you say that the new curriculum launched in 2023?
So last year, so what was that, 23, 24?
23, 24.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so does that mean that every classroom teacher is using this now?
They should be.
They should be.
They should be.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
And I
last year, like she said, was kind of like the soft launch, trying to figure it out. And then this year, hopefully, everyone is implementing it.
It's a lot of work to rewrite
Yes, it is.
lesson plans and,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's, again, like the content that science is doesn't change much. It's just the approach to which we teach it. And so the biggest thing that we were kind of hit with when we were looking at these new standards was there's this word phenomenon that they use. And so it's all about exploration and hands-on, kind of students choose the path in which they learn. And there's a lot of trial and error.
And real world examples.
Yep, exactly. And that's the part that's really different from what we've done, because, and you guys maybe in your education have experience, like we refer to them as recipe labs. Here's your hypothesis. Here's your testable question. This is what you do. And there's not a lot of thinking in it otherwise, where the new standards are very much rooted in student exploration. And so it's really different. And it's different to teach in a way where you're kind of giving students that freedom and stepping back a little bit and seeing how they
come up with.
Yeah, what they do and what they maybe don't do, and guiding them along the way. So it's fun though. I mean, to see what they are capable of is pretty amazing.
So Kenna, what does this look like in, like first, second grade? Is it Brenda that is the one that is implementing these standards, or is it going to their teacher, or what does that look like?
Yep, so it should be kind of, to my understanding, a teacher at each grade level has a science focus within their day. Mr. Dockin could maybe speak to that better than I could, but Brenda still does her STEM standards to cover, because those are still part of our standards, but to cover the specifics for every grade level has, call it a dozen or so standards. It changes a little bit from one grade level to the next, but they would spend dedicated time each week, not daily, but hopefully weekly. And again, if they can do it in a way that's cross-cutting between content areas, so they're reading about science, they're doing math with science, and so they have curriculum in place that they're able to draw from, but a lot of our focus was really just what can you do for exposure that supports us as they get to our level.
It's really third grade and above that have the individualized kind of classroom teachers. K through 2, kind of all the teachers teach it.
Any other questions?
It's a lot of work, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, our science staff, the high school and the teachers are working with Science Elementary, really put in a lot of work, and I'm proud of the work they've done, proud of the results we're seeing. They've done a nice job, so appreciate that, because there was some tough conversations when it first got going and trying to bring everything together, and there's so many different things, like curriculums and things that teachers had put together to cover. So yeah, the science team and the teachers that I've worked with have done a real nice job, so.
Have you guys taken any tests, sample tests?
They don't release them to us, so we're not allowed to know what's on the test. So we have item samplers, so we can see what, and this new test, we haven't seen anything for. They haven't released.
How did I get my hands on one?
So you've seen, the item samplers will give you, 10 or so questions, and it'll show you what the test looks like. For what the students will do. They can.
That was 10th grade science, you know, I actually had some college science. I felt stupid.
Yep. And it's interesting the way that the test is formatted too. Again, my sophomore science with biology specific is definitely within the content and the units that I teach, but the test it's almost disguised as something different. And so they're pulling this tab into this so that it's matching. So it seems like it's not testing them on the process of photosynthesis, but really that's what it's doing. And so I'm not sure why they write the test in that way. The test is written by teachers who volunteer to be on those committees and formulate that.
And it's randomized, not every kid gets the same questions.
questions
So some
and
kids will be
sets.
like, I had questions on weather, I had questions on rocks, I had questions on photosynthesis.
Oh, no
So
kidding.
it's totally different.
Yep.
Yeah, isn't there like 6 different tests or something like that?
There's a lot.
Something like that.
I really appreciate the continuity in the curriculum from elementary through, because we know that our kids in the United States are falling way behind in science compared to other countries. And so I think it's really important that we figure out how we build those foundations and foundational blocks so that by the time they get to high school, they have had a great foundation laid. And so thank you very much for the work you've done.
It's our goal anyway.
Do they ever release old prior tests?
Not in their entirety. So they now have, Kathy could tell me what the name of it is again, but they will let you see specific questions that they did potentially ask on tests. And at times I've looked at those. That's how I knew that some of the HHMI stuff that I use in class has been, I said to Kathy, I literally use that lesson, and then there was 6 questions on it. So, but that's not to say that every student had that or that it was taught in the same way that the questions were addressing, right? It just might be the same.
It would be fun to get a hold of those and have the parents come in and do a family fun night and take those.
Yes.
No, it would not.
New trivia setup.
I'd like to do it.
I would like to take one too.
I'd like to take it.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So all the 7A items.
I'll second.
Motion by Jen, second by Holly. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes. All right, that gets us down to
Discussion items.
7B, discussion items, City of Aiken resolution in support of the pedestrian bridge and path project.
The city contacted me, they're gonna redo the bridge across the river, and they're gonna do some work on the path. Part of that path, I think it's about 3/10 of a mile, is the school path, and they wanna work their way through it. They're applying for a grant, which would cover it. There won't be an expense to the school district, when they do this, if they get the grant, and they just need, being that we are part owner of some of the area that they wanna work on, they want us to agree, and the resolution, I've had a chance to read it, I had Heather add the wrong thing, but it's just a resolution saying we support the city in going after the grant, so.
I did read it. It doesn't have anything in there that we owe anything or it's just.
They've been added as support for their request.
Is there a motion to pass the resolution to support that?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Holly, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Brian, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes. Next is the superintendent contract.
Yeah, we don't need to get into details on that. I did share some things with Cindy, which I eventually shared out to the board. But you had an idea of where we're at. I think we can, just the board's at, and really it just comes down to is, do you want, not knowing who the chair would be, if you want board chair to negotiate, or if you want to have 3 board members get together and talk about that. That's really up to the board. Once we get a final agreement, then we can bring it to the board, but I don't think we want to, I prefer we don't negotiate right here.
Correct, yeah.
I like the evaluation form that was there. I do wish it had a section for us to, as board members, put our goals down. So then when you go into contract negotiation, if our goals are matching as board members, then it's easier for whoever's negotiating to set Dan's new goals. That's the only thing I felt like that evaluation form was missing.
And that's a version of the form that's been updated. I think maybe last time I already put it on letterhead, whatever. But if you want to use that form for the evaluation, I'm good with that. The School Board School Board Association, Superintendent Association have got together and put together. It's a different. It did like 41 different competencies, and I think if we want to use that one in the future, we myself and the board would determine which one of the 41 things we'd focus on and go from there. Not that we couldn't use that now, but if we want to use the form that we have been using, and if you want to add, modify, change something to it, Holly, if you have some ideas, you want to email, and I'm okay, if you're all right with me updating and making changes on that, being it's my evaluation, I don't know how you feel about that, but if you have things you want to add or modify.
Well, I think because there's a comment section under each one of the evaluation areas, you can fill in your information. There's just no place for us to state like future goals.
Okay.
And that's something.
So you have goals for me as superintendent?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like for us to establish your goals so we can evaluate you better next time, because I don't know that we were ever given whatever goals were given to you by the last board. Right. So it's hard for me to evaluate you on if you reached the goals they gave you, because I didn't know what those were. So I would just like a goals spot so we can each write what's important to us.
Maybe like 3, like your top 3 goals. Okay.
So I know we've looked in the past at the MSBA evaluation form and said, this is not what we're looking for. And this form seemed to be, and it's consistent with what's been done. And I'm not opposed to adding goals. I think if you have goals, it gives you something to evaluate someone on. Also understanding that sometimes goals just can't be met. And somebody shouldn't be we shouldn't be looking badly upon somebody if they don't meet a goal. There's lots of reasons why goals can't be met, but I do think what I remember of the questions in the evaluation, they got to some pretty good places. And in the past, the format that we used for the evaluation is that we all filled them out and gave them to the chair.
Yeah.
But I think...
And then I consolidated every comment. I didn't edit anything and just listed all of those comments under each item. And then that's what was distributed in the summary.
I think it would be good this year if we had a team of people, a group of 3 board members that went through and, I think we should all do the evaluation. But then that group of 3 could sit down, you shouldn't have to do all of it, Cindy, and sit down and consolidate them. And then that group can then go through the negotiation process.
How many in this group have done the executive level leadership type of evaluations before?
I have.
I work for myself, so. I don't have to do
Every
that.
day you do it.
Every day I evaluate myself.
Which, you know.
So I've only done them below,
Yeah.
but
Okay, that was just a question. So there's how many of us?
Brian, yeah.
Yeah,
4
I do lots of
4.
evaluations.
5.
So are there 3 people who want to take part?
I would be happy to be a part of that.
Okay.
I would give a more of a private sector type of a scope and lens, so to say, on it. Because I haven't done a lot of, government stuff or public stuff, so.
So you get a private lesson from Rollin?
No, I mean,
Private conference, I mean?
private
done public
industry
and
type of
private.
business industry stuff, that's where I'm coming from, that's my experience in it, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
So if this board feels that there's some, if there's some relevant things there from what I've done in the past with that.
I think Rollins should be on there because he's not on any of the other negotiating teams, and you have to do at least a part of that when you're. If the rest of us have to do it, you have to do
That
it
is an
too.
excellent point. Yes.
Neither one of you are on the negotiation
I'm on
teams.
negotiation.
You are
Yeah.
on one of our contract teams. You were the only one not on one, so Rollin gets superintendent.
So
TikTok
do you
videos.
want me or do you want somebody else? I don't.
No, I think you should be.
No, you.
Okay.
You definitely
be
So
on
me, Don Rolland, is that okay with you guys? Okay, so we'll have everybody complete the evaluation.
Okay,
Feel free to add 3 personal goals for the superintendent. Submit all of those to
You?
me. And then we will consolidate them and get that out to the full board.
Give us a due date so we get it done, because otherwise we'll let them sit. When's our
Okay.
due date?
And then I think then the negotiations will be after that, right? So we don't, it's not sort of one and the same, but
no, yeah, you're right, we have to do evaluation.
Right.
And
Yes.
then we step in.
so when's our February meeting?
It's the
It's early.
second one, so it's the
10th.
13th.
Second week, right?
The 10th of February.
We got kind of next there, didn't we?
One.
So would it be enough if everybody got them into us by the 3rd? That would give us a week to consolidate.
I can do that.
Okay.
Or maybe is the 3rd okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So so that I understand the process, I wanna make sure that I'm understanding. So we're going to get these to you, and then the 3 of us will sit down and consolidate them. And then they're gonna go out to the rest of the board for everybody's agreeance. And then are the 3 of us gonna sit down and make a recommendation to the board about the contract?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that what you think, board members?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay,
that was my expectation.
okay.
So I can add a spot on the bottom or in the back of that for 3 goals, and I'll send it out tomorrow, just knowing, or the next day, just knowing that your responses should go to Cindy, she'll gather them. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right.
And I wonder too, Dan, maybe it would be nice for us to hear from you what you think the 3 goals should be.
Okay,
I would like to know that.
all right. I can do that.
Yeah, maybe your goals will match ours.
And maybe they won't,
They'll
and
be
maybe,
better.
and maybe they won't, and we can
Yeah.
have a conversation about what gets chucked and what stays.
Well, and I would like to kind of like look back at the strategic plan too, right? To try to tie that in, so, okay, all right. So
Alright.
February 3rd by the end of the business day.
Okay,
Okay,
you want me, the teacher retirement discussion, I sent you copies, of MOU. The statute is listed there, but it's something, you know, when we'll be talking about board cuts here coming, or, cuts. And, hope I thought I put it in here. There are some criteria that we have staff that meet, that could do an early retirement. Visiting with districts, some districts have offered insurance, I don't wanna say buyouts, but insurance incentives, to staff, and it's 15 years of teaching or 50 and 55 years old. Or if you have 30 years of teaching in, then the age requirement doesn't matter. We do have a number of teachers that are at the 55 years old and have 15 years of teaching in. I have no idea if one or all of them would be interested in this. I've talked with Education Minnesota Aiken. They've agreed, or they would agree with the MOU to present it. Yeah, so I guess I'd like board permission to move forward and see if we have any teachers interested in, in a potential insurance incentive to take an early retirement. Where we're at right now without the rule of 90, we have teachers that would qualify for the rule of 90, again, not knowing if they'd retire or not, but are gonna continue teaching, which is their right, but there's gonna be a period of time here where we've had our rule of 90 teachers have retired, and now we have teachers that are gonna be teaching until they're 62 or older because of the TRA system and the way the rules around that were. So I'm gonna stop there because I could complain for 45 minutes about how that worked. And you've probably heard some of that before, but, so it's trying to figure out something in between. I came with the $14,400 a year. That's roughly the price of a single insurance plan at our lowest deductible. So that would be what, and it would be a 2-year, we deposit that every year into a healthcare savings plan, and then they could use it for their insurance premium or other insurance costs if they had insurance elsewhere. So I guess I'm looking for a board motion and a second to approval to
So how
present
many
that.
years would
Yeah.
we carry their insurance? 2 years?
2 years would be 2 years, on the first of July in 25 and 1st of July in 2026, they would get and it's in the MOU that doesn't, this is what, we're gonna do it this year, and then if we wanna do it in the future, it's up to the board to offer it. It's not changing a contract, it's not, creating a precedent per se.
But they're not in the plan, they're just deposited in their healthcare savings plan.
And they would still be on our, and they still have, when teachers retire, they still have the option to stay on our insurance.
So they could stay on our insurance, or they could take the money and go somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the idea with the healthcare savings plan.
Is that our insurance or is it a Cobra insurance that they get?
No, they would take our insurance, it's just they would get that health savings plan so they could pay a premium to a private insurer or to a spouse's insurer or whatever. Just take their chunk of money.
It would be Cobra, but it would be on our plan.
Yeah, so if Cobra gets offered once,
Yep.
and it's their choice it's just very simple, it's their choice, Cobra. But they get this to make a decision on Cobra or another health plan.
Yep.
Or just bank it and risk.
So, Heather, if you don't have a roundabout number, just tell me so and you can give it to me whenever. What is the potential cost? For how many teachers do we have, or staff members, that could potentially do this?
I have 14.
14?
Yep.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't believe.
They're not all going to take it, no.
Nope.
I will make a motion that we move forward with this offer.
motion by Holly, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jen, any other discussion?
I'm making this motion because this is a, voluntary thing. This isn't something we're pushing into contracts, so I feel like this is an opportunity for some of our staff to maybe move on if they have wanted to, but this is holding them back, so I think it's a great way to offer this out to people.
I agree with that.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes.
All right, thank you. And I'll get information out then in the next couple of days to staff that would qualify or would meet that criteria. Now the budget, I shared that with the board, and I have been sharing that in July, for the 25-26 school year, we're projecting a $965,000 budget deficit. We have that, which would put us below the 25% that our board policy has that we maintain in our general fund operating budget. I would propose that we drop that to 20%, which would still create a $790,000 gap, which we'd have to look at either reductions or generating income. And really the one thing the district can do to generate income is run an operating referendum, and I haven't brought that to the board. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Like I shared, our declining enrollment's a factor. In the last 10 years, our enrollment's decreased 18%, and our teacher FTEs have only decreased by 4%. And homeschooling, the jump in homeschooling, which we're seeing and other districts are seeing as well, is playing a role in that. That's costing us just over $400,000 a year. That's using $7,300 per pupil aid, which is kind of a state average. Not all kids are the same and based on their criteria, but that's an average. I did today do some more math. Since 2014-15, our student enrollment's decreased 231 students. Now, it hasn't been $7,300 all along, but today that 231 students at $7,300 a student is $1.68 million a year is what our declining enrollments cost us based in the last this year, if we look at where we were 10 years ago. So we have made some reductions and adjustments, but that's where it's coming. That's why we're in the situation is our declining enrollment. And with the increased homeschooling, kind of expedited that or sped that up a little bit. So I guess what I'm telling you is, we're informing you, is that, or I'm asking one, is if we want to drop that 20% board policy, 25% board policy down to 20. That'll be a little bit of help this year. Obviously next year, if we don't fix some things, then we'll be at the 20% or below, we'll be below it unless we make some major cuts, but that would help get us started a little bit. I don't know if the board wants to talk. We do operating referendums in November is the only time we can do those. Everything else we've been talking about with building, I don't know the timing on that, but that would be a discussion we could have with the board if we wanted to. So I guess first thing is the board interested in dropping the 25% board policy down to 20?
What do other districts similar to ours, what is their percentage at?
Less than ours. Many schools are in that 15. I would say it's pretty safe to say about 15%. It seems like the only two I've ever seen that were at 25 are us and McGregor. I'm sure there's others.
What about MDE? Does MDE have any kind of standard that they want us to stay at, or is there anything in the law that says we have to be?
The reason we're at 25% is the recommendation is you have 3 months of money built up. It's just that most districts don't or can't afford that.
Welcome to household budgeting.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's where I was gonna say, you can't keep your rainy day fund when it starts pouring outside and you just keep watching your roof leak. So I think
the thing
that's
is,
20% is.
if we drop that, which up to the board, I'm gonna ask you to drop it to 20%, but we still gotta reduce that cutting or funding or expenses, because next year when, we can't keep spending more than we're bringing in, regardless if it's 25% or 20% or 15%.
What would the numbers look like if we went to 18%?
Is that 5% 175, or is it graduated a different percent? Is kind of what you're saying.
Say it again?
Well, I mean, 5% reduced at 175.
Yeah.
I mean, is that relevant on each percent, or I have no idea?
Should be.
So it would only be, take that 5%.
Oh, I see what you're saying, about
Say
50,000.
so, each
Yeah.
percent
Yeah.
of that.
60, another 50,000, 60,000.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's
So
a teacher's salary
Yeah.
for some.
So
do
is
we
there-
have to make that decision now, or?
Do not have to make it now.
Yeah.
I guess it's, we are gonna start in, administration, and I've started visiting some of our leads already about, we're gonna have to figure out ways to cut some
Yeah,
spending. I'm doing that already. I guess I just really wanted to have a discussion with the board to try and, not that you didn't understand that, but I wanna just make sure everybody's clear as to what that means and how that would impact us.
This board has elected to do that in other years as well, and then we've been able to kind of, increase it back up, and so, and I also recall almost every time the auditor has been here too, over the last 10 years when I've been here, they've talked about that's more generous than what other school districts have that they work with, so I do feel comfortable in reducing it.
oh, I feel comfortable too, but I think it's kind of where do we look at? I mean, it's a balancing act here.
Piece of the solution.
As to where we're at, and to make that determination of what we should go to. It sounds like we have room there, but I don't want to fall in that room if we have areas that, make sense.
Kind of how we did it last time around, and the reason I brought it up now is I felt like I did it backwards last time, because I don't know if the board I didn't really ask the board to drop it until we got to that point, but we had made a bunch of reduction suggestions, and then I put on there, and then can we drop, I think I said 22. I remember 20, or same type deal, but it was kind of after the fact, and I felt like I should have let the board know that was a possibility up front. So
I think this needs an entire work session, because I don't think this is normal budget cutting. This is not something that we need to sustain for a tiny bit until our funding comes back. This is long-term. We need to make major decisions on how to not end up here every single year coming, which every school district in the state is not just us. So I really think this needs more planning. I would prefer, after we made some ideas or that, maybe a survey to our community, because I'd rather ask some questions ahead of time than deal with pitchforks after. If we have some options that we can build, we've asked them about everything else and it seems to work out for us. So I think we ask some questions, then these are our plans, but I think it needs discussion.
If I'm not mistaken, Dan, so you kind of need this to, then this frees
Notify
up
staff.
more, it doesn't give you more cash, it's just freeing you up more. And then you can start working on actual budget cutting strategies.
Yep.
So this isn't really doing a whole lot. I mean, why not just go to 15% right now? And I know some districts are running youth share at 10% reserve. And a lot of the bigger schools, that's what they run on.
So if you're all right with me looking at some options and then coming back, my caution to you, Holly, is what I've seen in the couple of times we've done budget cutting. And as people look, like, you should cut this and you should cut that.
Right.
I'm not saying we give them the decision, I'm saying
I'm
we
just
make
saying,
those.
yeah.
I see what you're saying to that, yes.
Yeah.
They all find a reason to
Yeah, I
not
would.
cut their favorite program and
Yeah.
put another one on the block, and
I'm saying that as somebody who's been on, we had to make reductions as a teacher and a coach, I'd look at, well, I think they should cut more than I should have, type thing, so. It's human nature, you're gonna,
The reality of it is that it's not fun
no,
to cut almost $1 million.
right,
And we also are in the process, we have been in the process for a while of a realignment and going to a 3-section school.
right.
And so,
Yeah,
You
and
know,
we've known it's been coming, and
Yeah.
right, and I would've, could've, should've, and, looking back, maybe we should have been cutting more over the past couple of years, but we were holding steady until this year came along. We
Yeah,
were
but-
spending down, but.
You're right, every district is facing this.
Yeah, this isn't,
This is a small number compared to what a lot of districts are
Yeah.
looking at. So we're not in that bad shape, even though we're a lot smaller than a lot of districts. This is not anywhere near what the
One
big districts are talking about.
So
I agree with Holly that there should be input though, but I feel like it should be from the teachers and the staff of where they think cost reductions can be made, because they're the ones that are living it every day.
I had a staff member tell me though that then you tend to pit staff against staff, and this wasn't in the school district. It was they were trying to cut it in another business. When you ask staff what should be cut, it's never there. It's the next, you know. So then they kind of, so they were like they asked their patients and their other people where to save money instead of their staff, because of course the staff goes, yeah, that department needs to go and that department needs to cut, but never their own. So. I'm not saying I think their input is good, but I don't know that you're gonna get the correct kind of input, because your consumer on the other end, like your parents, you cut too many things and we start losing more parents, then we have more budget cuts in the long run. And I'm not saying we can make them happy either. We're not gonna make everybody happy, but when they have a voice, sometimes they feel less mad.
I think we will have to have special sessions, but we're not anywhere near that point. And maybe the first piece we just talked about is gonna create some savings.
Right.
And
Yep.
position realignment. So I think you just wanna, do you need a resolution?
I don't, as long as I know, I don't wanna, like I said, I did it 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when we did budget cuts. I came back after we had made a proposal and said, hey, I'd like to ask us to go to 22%. And I felt like board would have liked to have known that up front. So that's why I'm saying that's a possibility here. If you're good with that, I mean, I trust that I'm not gonna get blasted down the road if we figure at, you know, if we drop to 20% or 18% to cover. I'm good with moving forward on that. And I wanted to share just some of the stats.
I
some of
have
the
a
numbers with you.
question for Heather about this. Heather, fund nonprofit standards, what do they, I can't remember what they say, I'd have to go back and look it up, about what percentage we need to be holding on to.
Like Dan said, they say about 3 months of
3 months.
expenditures, so
So we will be outside of the standards if we lower it.
If we don't change anything for 25-26, we won't as of June 30th this year, but the next year.
Then, okay, alright. Well, I'm with Brian, and I think if you're gonna go to 20, you may as well go to 15. And get yourself some wiggle room in there, and the other part of this is that I would really like to see what some of the scenarios are that we're talking about. I'm also very concerned about having those discussions around positions, because we're talking about people's livelihoods. And I don't want to make any cuts. I don't want to, but we just really don't have a choice. And I hope that in the work that's being done to come up with different scenarios, that that we can be creative about how we get to a 3-section school by having to lay off the fewest number of people.
And that's why I think it's important to ask the staff and the teachers, because they see those types of things that maybe we wouldn't, or administration would. And I trust that administration sifts through the pitting against each other sort of comments and, you know, disregard that. But yeah, that's definitely work session needed for this type of stuff.
I agree with you, Jen.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I think this board has the appetite to be able to move that number.
Yep.
I'm guessing we all kind of do. We don't need a
Look at it,
resolution, but I'm
no.
pretty sure we're gonna.
Look at a work session here
Yeah.
in a January, February. We have to be careful, you know, it is a public, work sessions have to be public meetings as well, I believe.
And when
So we
do
have to be
we,
cautious on how we go about that.
what's the time frame if we do reductions on notice? Is there
March, I
something in the
believe, we have to
contract?
start. I shouldn't say, I better double check, I think it's March.
Is it easier to do it maybe in budget committee, so there can be more conversation and then board presentation? I don't know that that's an option if that's, but if that makes it easier to have the discussions where we don't have to open full meetings, you can have true full data included
Well, it'd be 3 board
conversations.
members. The board wants to be involved with 3 board members or less, then it's not a, as long as you don't have a quorum, we could do a.
Facilities and finance would be, that's what it would be.
I'm just looking at easy ways for you to have the conversations you need to have with us without us
Right.
having to open the doors for everyone, because there are some things we can't talk about
Right.
with everyone.
Could we do like some of our preliminary discussions or ideas, and then you can just share with the board, like?
I could meet with board members in small groups or whatever, a couple of you come in.
Who's
at a
on,
time.
we do the full list of committees too in January,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
kind of forgot about that.
Right,
Who's on facilities and finance right now?
I am,
I am.
I think we had 3 of you on there.
And then who's on personnel? Me.
I am,
So those are 2 committees that it could be discussed at.
Those aren't open meetings? Don't they fall under the open meeting?
Yeah,
law?
they're all open meetings, but
They are. Let me, do some looking at that. Yeah, you're right, we'll have to come back, forgot all about that in February and do the committee assignments if you know anything, I'm getting way off track now, thanks. But if you know you're gonna change committees, let us know. going ahead.
Isn't there something in there that we can strategize without being in an open meeting?
Contract. I don't know about this,
not budget.
not budget.
I thought there was something in there about board strategy.
All right, now I kinda need a little bit of an idea what you're thinking and how to move forward. I'll put some ideas together and see where we come out.
Cindy, you're on personnel also, and so is Roland.
Okay,
So that still leaves out Cassie and Jen, right?
Could you, maybe we could you send out the list of committees and we could all look at it and then figure that out in February? If
Yep.
we wanna change committees or something?
yep, we'll do that. Okay, anything else on that for now?
No.
Okay, so we got staffing. Bus that we ordered 2 years ago,
Almost 2 years.
almost 2 years ago, they've notified us that they are available now, so this is the lease. We haven't been paying on the lease, obviously, because we haven't had the bus, but, any approval to sign or to go into lease these 2 buses that we ordered 2 years ago.
Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Dawn, is there a second?
A second.
Second by Cassie, any discussion? All those in favor, discussion?
Yeah, I do have some a little bit. Are these gas or diesel buses?
These are diesel buses.
Are they?
Yep, we wanted gas engines, but they weren't.
They weren't
They were doing
available,
again, yeah.
that's right, that's the only thing I wanted to clarify.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all members voting yes.
All right. Committee reports you're up to now.
Board member reports?
I'll jump into the policy. I don't know. I remember if I had a board member. Just going through the policies. We're on the 200s, and just reviewing and updating, making sure we have the latest and greatest policy on our website. So we did decide, since we're pretty much all caught up on the changes we have to make, we're not going to meet in February. We'll meet again in March, and we'll just review a few more policies in March. So that's a policy update.
Okay. Any other committee reports?
I can do agriculture.
Go ahead.
All right, so as always, there's an awful lot going on in the AgMech and FFA area. I'll go through a couple updates for everybody. So they've adopted and they're starting to utilize the Fusion 360 software, and they've got it loaded in the Tormac CNC machine, so they're able to actually manufacture some items using that program, some basic items, and then the Tormac does the machining of them. So it's a huge win for the whole program, getting to that point. Cause the Tormac had been just taking up space, so, to actually see it in action, see the software, that's pretty awesome. Doing things like, making bolts and things for actual projects that they're building, so we saw that on the tour we had, so that was good. And then, let's see, working on certification right now, Rocco is for AED. Currently working on, so a community ed welding class will start on April 15th. They did a field trip to Alexandria Tech, and the students that were able to go, they felt it was awesome. Seeing their facilities, and there's currently, there's 4 Aiken students attending Alex Tech for their programs, so great opportunity for students thinking about going there. They got to go there. Working on, submitted a grant. Rocco submitted a grant for this StarLab plasma table to Perkins, and then that got kicked out. They're working on some other funding. Now he submitted it to a MAELC. So we'll see how that one shakes out. So it's an expensive item, about $20,000
Thanks.
for the StarLab plasma table. So it'd be great if that came through. They really need it for courses, and be very useful for the robotics program as well. In FFA, so currently 12 students in it. They had the companion animal team place second at the region. They had 1 student, Will Vogelin, he took first place in leadership. So awesome job for him. And otherwise, we talked about new textbooks potentially, and a number of different things, manufacturing items like some schools are venturing into, and that's the end of the report.
Thank you. Technology committee?
I'll do a quick report on that. Technology committee hasn't met for a few years, but with all the, I don't say challenges or discussions that AI, artificial intelligence, is bringing into the world, we kind of got it up and going. There's some other things that technology we discussed at the first meeting, but the goal of that is to really decide, or just to try and determine what we need to help educate our staff and even students as well on AI, and how can that be used as a helpful tool and things like that. Those who go on MSB, I think there's a couple of AI sessions. You might want to check into those just to get an idea, but that's why the technology committee's back, and we're going to meet again Wednesday, I believe, and see what I think right now we'll look at doing some. Jason Roos put together a nice presentation, just kind of the basics of AI for our teachers and for our staff. And I think the next step would be to bring somebody in that's got experience in both education and using artificial intelligence, just to talk about some of the possibilities and go from there. So that's kind of the focus of the technology committee.
All right, principals report, Mr. Dockin.
Yeah, just getting back in, we were back in last week, lots of activities going on, elementary activities, winter activities have been kind of kicking off and busy, so the building's been pretty busy late into the evening. Kids are happy to be back. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of sickness kind of hitting us, both mainly students, but staff too, so just trying to work through that. And, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Demars?
Yeah, like Andy said, we're just getting back into the swing of things. This is our last week of first semester, so lots of wrap-ups is happening this week. And Friday, PBIS has a planned celebration day because we have met our behavior referral. They're less than 10% in a building, so the dance team is going to perform for us. at the end of the day, and then, PBIS has some, grade level competitions planned. So we'll see how that goes. That'll be fun. In-service day on January 3rd, we focused on, curriculum mapping. Departments met a lot. I decided to apply for an online school, outside of our district bounds, just to see if, we draw enrollment, if I need to cut staff. I'm just trying to think ahead of what that might look like. And so staff worked on syllabuses for the state to submit for approval, and so we don't know if we would be approved or not, but it's just something I'm exploring, just to see what that looks like. And yeah, if a teacher has an open hour in their day and they can offer an online class somewhere, just kind of looking at what are some things that we can do to kind of save money as a staff, and what can we do to offer our wonderful staff out to other places. So just kind of looking at that. We have a in-service next Monday, which is half data day, half planning, grading time for the last day of the semester, and we have what's called QPR training for all of our staff. Question, persuade, refer. It's a suicide prevention training for staff to just kind of be equipped. It's kind of like a CPR for suicide prevention. So we have that happening, and then snow days will be coming up that first week in February, and so we will do coordination for that Monday morning. We did that at homecoming, and that seemed to work really well. The girls really liked coming dressed and not having to try and figure out how to get ready for coronation at the end of the day. So we switched that to be in the morning as well, again, and then they'll have the dance that Saturday on the 8th. So kids are excited, they're planning. It's good to have them back.
Thank you. Can
Okay.
I just say thank you for offering QPR training?
Yeah.
Every teacher should have QPR training. It really is a helpful tool, and it's impactful.
And
So
that is
thank
training
you.
for our district, our whole district.
The whole district, awesome.
We're gonna open it up to everybody, I don't know.
Good, good. All right, community education,
Let's see, Laura.
all right, you're up.
Enrollment, we were down 6 students from last month. That's kind of the trend as the year goes on. We have students, and that'll fluctuate a little bit here at the end of the semester. Chances are we'll have a few students move in, a few move out. That's nothing that's is a surprise, I don't think. Then just a school project update. On Wednesday, this Wednesday, 2 days, 15th, we'll be doing the media rollout with ICS. There'll be an email going out to families, there'll be a press release, and then the We Are Aiken, the micro website, will be up and ready to go, and try to push that all out. Wednesday's our goal date. We've been doing some final proofs and edits and things today. I think we got the last of them. Last of the feedback back to them today. I'm hoping to have it tomorrow so I can send it all, let the board see it before things get launched. But that's really the project update. I think we shared the rest of it last week at our work session, and yeah, that's where I have.
Okay. Upcoming meetings, Personnel Committee on January 29th, Safety, February 4th, Facilities and Finance, February 5th, and then our school board meeting on February 10th.
I think I might have missed something when I was gone in December. Why is our meeting at 5 p.m. on February 10th?
Because there is a choir concert and we couldn't find another time that fit.
Oh,
So we're trying to get it in before.
For the choir concert.
okay.
That's still
We
work for
won't make
everybody?
a habit out of that.
Well, it's really hard because I have another meeting that's scheduled for that second Monday of the month, and it starts at 5:30. So I'm back to back, and this just throws it all for a loop. But whatever, I'll figure it out.
Did we want to plan a work session before we all walk away? on that budgeting work session, or are we still just trying to figure out what we wanna do with that?
Well, I think, either way, if it's not for a building project work session, we
A budget,
come back
or,
with some ideas with some budget stuff, budget information. Oh, that's March. We'll look at February 10th.
That's when the board
That's
meeting.
cool.
Oh, that's our board meeting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
did you say you needed something for us though before the beginning of February? When we were having one of these conversations?
The city resolution was the only thing that they wanted before.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do we wanna try for the 3rd? Was there a reason we couldn't?
Yep. So February 3rd?
Could we,
It doesn't have to be
Yeah,
on Monday
I'll
night, it
make
just
it.
seems like that's what's of the
Does
day.
another night work better, Don?
well, there was basketball games every Monday,
Oh, yeah.
so. But it's okay, we'll figure it out. If February 3rd works for everybody, then,
6
isn't
o'clock?
that the deadline for us to get the stuff to Cindy? We can just hand
Yeah, we
it
can
to
bring
her.
them in.
Oh, I'll
do-
help.
6 o'clock or 6:30?
I prefer 6.
Six.
Does that work for everybody? Okay. I should have the date.
Okay, anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that
moved.
motion.
Motion by Don, second by Holly, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.